Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Going behind the scenes with Hollywood's power players. Real Hollywood Live with Ben and Reba. Starts now.
Hi, welcome to Real Hollywood Live with Ben and Reba.
I'm Reba.
Yep, and I'm Ben. We're here every Tuesday at 1 o'clock p.m. on UBNradio.com, Channel 1. And I'm extremely excited about today. Today makes us real.
Real. We are so real because we have a real legend in the house.
I'm excited. We have Ed Asner, who not only has he had over 340 credits to his name, but every year at Stephen S. Wise Temple, when he reads, it's like God is talking to you.
How do you know these things?
Because I was there. God spoke to me.
Okay. Well, I know we were going to have host talk about Kickstarter, but can I invoke...
Not just Kickstarter, about crowdfunding, because the world has changed.
I know, but you know something? Let's stop the world right now. It's not often that we get somebody like Ed Asner to sit across from us, have a glass of wine with us. So let's skip the host talk and let's go directly to the man that makes my heart pound. Hello, Mr. Asner.
Very sweet of you, ma'am.
You know something? There is nothing sweet about me.
Yeah.
But I do respect a man that has won 7 Emmys and has been nominated for more Emmys than any living actor. Or maybe dead, too.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't. That's a statistic I hadn't heard.
Like,
Where did you get that statistic? It's a hard word. Isn't
I
it?
got it from Charles Sherman. He gives me the right information.
Oh, well, he's a goddamn liar.
But Reba knows. You've interviewed them all.
Well, I haven't interviewed Mr. Asner, and I have to tell you something.
So life is
Stop
complete.
the Mr. bit.
Okay,
You're a
Ed,
little
you're
too-
making my heart pound, and I haven't done this since
You're
Sean Connery.
a little too long in the tooth to call me Mr.
What would you like
call
me to call
Sugar
you?
Bush?
Sugar Bush? Oh, I
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
Let me ask you, just upfront and straight. When did you know that you were going to be an actor? Were you an actor as a kid? I mean, you look like you show off all the time, easily.
Well, I jumped on stage easily when I was a kid. I come from Kansas City, Kansas. You don't think about acting as a way of life. It belongs to those people who are on the movie screen or behind the microphone on radio. Radio was a big shaper in my life. And so not until I auditioned for and got and did the lead in a play in college did I begin to think, yeah, I want some of that.
So how did you get from Kansas City to Hollywood? Or did you go by way of New York?
I went by way of Chicago. That's where I started to act. Yeah, that's a good place to start.
Why?
Well, it's like Carl Sandburg said. It's a masculine city. It's the ball breaker of the world. It's got beauty. It's got dirt. It's got steel, or it had steel.
Was Chicago good to you? Did it open doors that you actually got to practice your craft?
I practiced my craft, but doors weren't open. I wasn't really looking for jobs there. I guess I was looking for experience, and I got it.
That means you didn't get paid?
Enough to survive.
So where did you go next? New York or L.A.?
New York. I served 6 years in New York.
This is the era with live television, because I do know from Jack Lemmon and Jimmy Stewart, that's how they really polished their craft, because you had all that live drama going on. Is that where you put your foot in?
Yeah. Where?
In New York, doing live drama.
No, I started with the Sunday morning shows, Camera 3.
Ooh.
Yeah, and Look Up and Live and Lamp Unto My Feet and stuff like that.
Were you, I can only go by, I interviewed Dustin Hoffman, and he said that when he was trying to make it in New York, they told him that he was a juvenile character actor. Now, this is when he's 30 years old. Were you typecast with a certain look?
They never really addressed me in those terms. Here's a job, do it. I started off with my first real movie type work was with Burt Leonard on Naked City and Route 66. And that's where I began to get aspirations of California.
Oh, I like that. So what was it like when you came out to L.A., or did they bring you out for a role, which has got to be the best way to go?
I came out here to do my second performance as a detective on Naked City with Paul Burke. We were extraditing two brothers who were killers, Frank Sutton and Bobby Blake. And what's his name? Who got knifed in Psycho? Marty Balsam was their lawyer and their in charge of them, and they eventually killed him. And in the shootout, I got killed. Didn't get killed. I got wounded. Paul Burke killed Frank Sutton and nabbed Bobby Blake to take back to New York.
I got to ask you something. You don't deny your age. Is it okay to say the number?
Yeah.
85?
Yeah.
How can you remember all this stuff? How do you remember to do all these roles?
Well, I remember you, sugar.
What?
Ben, we have
as
yet
you get
to
older, it's like 30, 40 years ago, it gets easy. My grandfather's 100. It's last week that's hard. But you strike me as you know what happened last week, too.
It's 2 hours ago that's hard. Yeah. No, I had a hard time trying to recall Marty Balsam for a moment there.
Well, I was thinking that we just need to get Google as a sponsor or IMDb so we can be looking this stuff up as people talk about it, because, my mind can't keep track of it anymore. You've got a lot more in your head than I do in mine.
Well, for the second time, I shaved today, the first time in a week. So this is the smoothest skin you'll ever see on me. Well, maybe.
I'm sitting across from you, and one of your more recent performances that I saw was in The Good Wife, where you played this rich older man who was kind of a lecher. But you did have good taste. I thought
a lecher?
Yeah.
No.
A grabber?
I just try to get what I can, that's all.
Do you live like that too?
Oh, I wish I could implement it as easily as he did.
Well, again, one of my favorite quotes, George Burns said that at my age, sex is like playing pool with a rope.
Shame on George. He makes it hard for all of us.
Well, you're not afraid to. Before I talk. Well, no, I'm going to just do it.
Do it.
Okay. You're very outspoken when it comes to politics. Has that affected your career?
It did when the show got canceled.
What are we talking about, Lou Grant?
Lou Grant.
When it was in the top 10, they canceled.
Oh no, it wasn't in the top 10. I won't dump that on them. But they had a vice president come out to see me when we had 1,000 people each night for a couple of weeks protesting in front of CBS at the cancellation. So a vice president came out to try to say that because of the cancellation of this and MASH being disappeared from Monday nights, that they were really worried about losing their power on Monday nights. So but he also didn't quote the fact that what's his name, who owned CBS, Paley, came in and saw the board one day and saw Lou Grant scheduled up there for Monday night. And that he supposedly said, "What's that doing up there? Get it off! Get it off!" And that's when we got canceled.
Did it affect any of your film roles? Because you're in a very, but we live in a liberal state.
I was blacklisted for a while.
Pardon me?
I was blacklisted for a while.
And what did you do?
I just kept trying for jobs. What else can you do?
And nobody tells you the truth why you didn't get the
No,
job.
but I discovered it en route. And I gave an interview at one time, and it was in Washington, D.C. on radio. I forgot what program it was. And I said that when a blacklist takes place, the liberals participate in it just as the fascists, because it's a business. It's a business. And if you're controversial at the time, well, they don't want you to come in there and spoil it for their very special baby. But they can't say that they're blacklisting you or they're participating in a blacklist. So they'll say, no, he's too old, or he's too bald, or he's too fat, or, whatever.
Because those aren't prejudicial either.
Huh?
I said those aren't prejudicial either.
No. But that way, they know they're not doing it for politics. I nicked my nose this morning, by the way. Is it bleeding?
No, you're beautiful.
Oh, good. Tell me if I bleed down my chin, and I'll mop myself.
Okay, well, if you do, I'll give a plug for the horror festival.
Oh, good. So, then a few years later, I was told around about that time that a new medical show was coming after Lou Grant was canceled. And Howard Rodman, who wrote the script, and he was a brilliant writer, said Ed Asner would be good for this senior doctor. And the producer said, no, I think he'd be a political liability. So that was number one. Then I gave that interview. And a couple of years after, about a year after that, I was doing a narrator on a documentary in Boston. And the first day at work, the producer asked me to go to lunch with him. I said, fine, lovely. So I went to lunch with him. He said, you know why you're here, don't you? I said, no, why? He said, I had you up for a documentary about 2 years ago. And I submitted your name. And the producer corporation sent it back with a red line through it. And I didn't say anything, but I knew why they did that. So that's why you're here today, so I can atone for that participation in keeping you off the air.
Wow.
Do you think that still happens today, where a lot of actors are very political and outspoken?
Where are a lot of actors political?
Well, and today, like George Clooney speaks up very much. There's a lot of actors that champion causes and are politically active. Do you think that same...
But you're always selective. And George Clooney is selective. He's not endangering his precious body when he speaks out. And there is no great organized resistance as there was at that time. The communist experience, and I angered Charlton Heston at that time. So I was president of SAG. SAG was also going to incorporate the extras in representation. Well, he got the stuntmen all fired up, the day players. These extras are going to come in and take away our jobs. And so it was a cross-current of a lot of issues, which for the most part got me branded as a commie and had my show deservedly canceled.
I have to say something, because you brought up the stuntmen. And just today, the Academy, they're being pushed to, it was just in the LA Times today, to push and open a branch up for the stuntmen.
Well, they should.
They should also do it for casting people, too.
Yeah.
I mean, where would the films be if they didn't put the right person in?
Well, the casting, they fall under Teamsters, which makes complete sense.
Yeah, of course.
They what?
I said the casting directors fall under the Teamsters Union, which makes complete sense, of course.
And my union, the Publishers Guild, falls under the Teamsters. Don't
Do
I
they?
look like it? Yeah.
You look like a Teamster.
I thought so. Any regrets about speaking out at that time?
No, I was being made a hero in some departments. My only regret was causing the 200 people who made Lou Grant out of work for a while, not permanently. But there is an effective answer I have for that in terms of regrets. One of my producers, several of them came down to see me. And I was merely responding to attacks on me as they occurred. I didn't open my mouth until an attack occurred, and then I'd respond. So he said, I feel that there are two ways to present our ideas, your way and our way of the show. And I think our way is better. And he's right. The show was very effective in discussing the various ideas presented to America. But I said, what do you want me to do? They attack me and I respond. So do you want me not to respond? And he didn't have an answer for that. So we got canceled. But he's right. I regretted that the idea forum that Lou Grant represented was taken off the air.
Because it's interesting today, there are a lot of television shows that will get points across by dramatizing it as part of the story, and then it hits you.
I think everything that David E. Kelley has done does that quite well.
There is another
Sometimes
part.
a little bit too much of a soapbox, but people watch, so it's okay.
What's he done lately?
I haven't seen much since Boston Legal went off the air. So
Yeah, well, it gave, what's his name?
James Spader and William Shatner.
It gave, what's his name, a big boost.
Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with fame? Before I saw you, I heard your voice.
Yeah.
I knew who you were.
Uh-huh.
You've been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with the fame?
I don't have to deal with it.
Do you get a good table in a restaurant?
If they know me.
Doesn't everybody know you?
No. Fortunately, Up came along, and the younger generation, they don't know me by sight, but when they're told that I was Carl, then they become instant fans.
Did they animate you? Did they make this movie for you? Because I didn't think anybody else could be that. I was going to call you a curmudgeon, but I don't. I'm doing that with love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
Did they draw it for you? Were you animated? I love saying that. Hi, Ed. Were you animated for Up?
Well, of course I was. But what are you asking?
It looked like you.
Well, that's up to them. I don't know what was in their minds when they drew that creature. I said it looked like Paul Douglas, the senator from Illinois. But nobody seems to cotton onto that because he had hair. Let's face it, Carl had hair. And if you think that maybe it was me with hair, then I said maybe I did influence them.
As an actor, you've had a career that obviously our industry has changed tremendously. The business has changed, technology has changed, but acting is still acting. Have you seen a difference as you've managed to work consistently through all these years?
Well, there's been a slowdown, of course. You know, he's too old, he's too fat, he's too gray. That effect still applies, and there's a great diminution in terms of what's offered me. But
well, is there any chance of slowing down? Are you slowing down?
I'm not slowing down. I can kick the crap out of any job you give me, as long as I don't have to leap tall buildings.
You can pet Kimberly as she crawls by. We do that when she goes under the table.
I did that before.
Oh, okay.
Be sure and come back.
You have 2 movies coming out. I mean, the thing that I find...
do?
Yes, I didn't write them down. I figured you would know what they
damn
were.
it. Reba, what? I can't take you anywhere.
I know you can't, but
Yeah,
but you're
God.
working opposite Diane Lane. Ladd.
Diane who?
Ladd. Diane Ladd?
Yeah, I don't think I made that one yet.
You mean you have films that you're going to make?
I have film that I'm going to make? What
I
do you
thought
mean?
these were in the can already. You still are.
I don't. If I'm working with Diane Ladd, then I don't think it's anything in the immediate past.
So it's the future.
Oh yeah, it must be.
Let me ask you on a more personal level.
She's a tigress,
Which one, me or Diane?
Diane.
Oh, I thought I was getting a compliment. That's how I try to pull it out.
Well, you were.
The night's young.
Yeah, right. I really want to commend you for speaking out, using your celebrity for Autism Speaks.
Why not? I have a son who's autistic, and I have a grandson who's autistic.
From the son that's autistic?
No. Two different sons.
Two different sons. So it's like you never know who's going to get it.
Well, exactly. But of course, the ability to discern who's on the spectrum gets greater and greater. And when my son was diagnosed, he was maybe close to 7 and 6. I still didn't believe it at the time. I mean, he still has one of the finest brains you'll ever discover, but he has personality problems.
Can he work?
Well, he just graduated from the volunteer program at New Haven Hospital, and that's to prepare him. Forget the book learning. That's to prepare him for encountering the public and working with the public and controlling his anger, his outbursts, whatever, and learning how to deal with people.
Here's a question that I don't even know if you can answer it. But if you hadn't been an actor, is there anything you think you could have done to earn a living? Oh, maybe that's a nasty way to ask
It's
it.
a silly way to approach that.
I-
How do I know what I've been good at? I love the idea of archaeology. I would have perhaps pursued it. I love the idea of political science.
And what about politics?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I come from a generation of Jews born before World War II. You didn't really think about politics that much when you come from Kansas City, Kansas. So I didn't think about politics. I thought about being influential in political science, perhaps. I have I had a brother-in-law who was an economist, and his twin, Murray Edelman, wrote one of the definitive books on political science and taught at the University of Wisconsin.
I have one last question.
Go ahead.
Before we're out
Oh,
of
you mean
time.
I have to go?
No, you
Well,
can stay for.
You
as
can
far
stay.
as-
Yeah, you can stay for
Well,
weeks.
can
not
stay.
if you're not talking to me directly.
well, okay.
I'll
With all
I'll
the
get my
roles,
ass out of here.
with all the roles you've played, is there something left that you still want to?
I never had that. I always felt I was deficient as an actor because I always thought, I don't have that leer I want to show you. I don't have that, the Hamlet when I was younger. I never had that. I was always so grateful for the roles I did get. I loved, in Shakespeare, I loved doing Henry IV, the king. He was a beauty, and his scenes with Hal were fantastic. I'd love to keep doing that over and over again.
Well,
I
I'll
did
tell you
Prospero.
What I'd like to do over and over again.
Please, it's a daytime show.
I was just going to say I would love for him to come back.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you are, regardless of what you think of me.
Well, who
I
knows what
think-
the next 85 years will produce?
Who knows? But I think you're a class act, and as far as I'm concerned, this was a pleasure and a big deal to have you sit across from us.
You're a yummy lady.
Thank you. You're a yummy guy.
Yeah.
And you do make my heart pound, which it's kind of good for me.
Well,
You're my new cardiac exercise.
I need a little more, honey. I need a little more.
All right. Well, on that, I'm going to talk about
Oh,
Conundrum
Ben,
Wine.
you're nice
I'd like
to
to
look
thank our.
at. No, you're very nice to look at, really.
Oh, well, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Conundrum Wine. They can solve just about any conundrum with enough. You can find them anywhere that wines are sold or at Wagner Family of Wines. And if you're going to drink it, you should drink it in the finest stemware and other very nice bar accoutrements from Barkeeper in Silver Lake. Also, we'll be right back. So thank you so much.
With these messages.
Exactly.
You're a great pair to deal to.
Thank you.
Conundrum has been turning winemaking on its head for 25 years. Conundrum White is the original white wine blend from California. Pair this exotic, versatile wine with everything from Asian cuisine to tacos. Conundrum Red is rich, full-flavored, and balanced, the perfect complement to dishes like pasta pomodoro, fajitas, and barbecue. Drink it slightly chilled, perfect for summer. You'll find Conundrum Red and White wines at your favorite restaurants, wine shops, or supermarket. Go to WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Again, that's WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Find your wine, find your adventure.
Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches is Reba Merrill's intriguing look at hidden Hollywood. Find out what movie stars are really like in this behind-the-scenes Hollywood tell-all. The story of Reba's extraordinary life interwoven with an insider's look at achieving fame and success in the entertainment industry. A must-read. Buy Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches at RebaMerrill.com, Amazon.com, or ask for it at fine bookstores. Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches. You'll love it.
Barkeeper in Silver Lake has the finest cocktail shakers and vintage glassware and barware from the mid-century to new. And let's not forget about Barkeeper's unique spirits, 150 different kinds of bitters, and their unique gifts. In fact, Barkeeper provided a lot of the vintage barware for Mad Men. BarkeeperSilverLake.com. Don't wait to visit their store or their website at BarkeeperSilverLake.com. It's your very own Barkeeper catalog for unique gifts.
Behind the scenes with Hollywood's Power Players. Real Hollywood Live with Ben and Reba. Starts now.
Williams II is a two-time Oscar winner. I'm a no-time Oscar winner. And I've had the pleasure of sitting with him and his wife Rosalind as we screen movies every weekend. It is such a pleasure to invite the first African-American two-time Oscar winner to our show, Real Hollywood Live. Hello.
Good to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And I have
us.
one complaint.
Oh, already?
Oh, cheers, first of all. Cheers. That you had me follow one of the more legendary people in the business, front or back of the camera. I won't mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
I don't know if you were watching outside, but I thought we were going to be recreating scenes from Cocoon.
I was watching, and if that swimming pool is anywhere nearby, I'll jump in it too because I need to.
I didn't finish the introduction that you are a professor at American University teaching film and the arts, and it is really a pleasure. As an Academy member, I know what the Academy is. It's like 98% white and male. They let a few people like me in and you in.
He's got the male part going for him.
Yes. Do you think, and I'm going to just be blunt and get it out in the beginning.
Okay.
Do you think they even knew who you were when they voted for your work, that it didn't matter what color you were? You were just doing a great job?
I can say absolutely not, because this is pre-internet, and that's why I really cherish the tribute of back-to-back Oscars, in the sense that they were really voting for the work. I mean, yeah, you could do research and find out who actually did sound on this and that movie, but it's a lot easier now to do that. And I was really, I'll put it this way, the moment I found out I was nominated, meaning, you know, our crew, combined crews, because as you know, sound is a shared award. So the post-production people and just the lone production mixer, but there are sometimes more than 100 people that actually work on the sound of a motion picture, and at least that many on a TV show. So it was really an honor to get nominated, but I felt right when I got that message that we were going to win. Don't know why, but I just felt that.
I was going to take you back because obviously the sound was important if you were a DJ in college, but
which I was.
How in the world do you go from DJing you went to American University, so
That's
you're
right,
home,
right.
and ending up in Hollywood? I mean, there has to be some way that you did this, and you did it in the 70s.
Right. Well, unlike certain careers which have a well-paved path from college to internships or, you know, getting into show business, there's really no well-defined path, sometimes even if you have family in the business. So for me, to become a trained listener happened during music classes, because I started playing piano and I played other instruments. Then while I was at undergrad at American U, I did radio, which I also engineered as well as, you know, spin the records. My first real break in the business was at NBC Washington. I did every day of the Watergate hearings as a TV engineer. And then I got that bug, you know, and I was doing little documentary films and things like that. But I said, what happens if I move across country? The movie that made me consider behind the camera careers was In the Heat of the Night. Because before then, as an African-American kid, you know, I went to the movies every weekend, and I was familiar with Sidney Poitier and a lot of the people who I'd seen in front of the camera. But when I saw Quincy Jones's name on the credits, and I knew Rahsaan Roland Kirk as a musician and these people, and of course Ray Charles sings the score, and I'm like, wow, there are people working behind the camera? Now, this still doesn't give you an avenue from D.C., my home, to L.A., but, you know, at least it put the bug in my head that it's a possibility, something I could reach for. Go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry.
What did your peers think of you when you made this big leap into an avenue that obviously wasn't the everyday path for African-American kids?
Well, and I'm glad you asked it that way, because whether you're African-American or not, when you want to leave hearth and home and something familiar and move to Hollywood, oh, yeah, right, kid. You know, the red carpet that you see on the Oscars, they're not going to have that at LAX when you get off the plane. And I found that out very quickly. So one of the things I'd found out in my first year out here, and I'll make this as quick as possible, one of my buddies who had left a year before was already working behind camera. He was in the electrical department doing lighting. He was working on this little TV show called Dallas. I went to visit him at MGM, and once I saw how much infrastructure they had to do a television show. Now, back in the 70s, you know, once to work in TV, you want to be in the movie business. That was my attitude, of course. Now, I'd be happy to work in television with some of the content that's on the air now, right? I'm talking about behind the camera. All right. Once I saw how many people were working on that show, I said to myself, 10 years before I can throw in the towel and go home.
That's the same amount of time I gave myself when I came here.
Did you? Okay, so we were on the same page. I saw how many people, how many levels of expertise were already there. And then the hardest hurdle for me to get over was getting in the union.
I was going to ask.
Yes.
Is it father to son in the sound union? Because it is in a lot of unions.
Well, I would put it this way. The business really grew from the people that are closest to you and expanded outward. So the scariest thing in the business, and I would say in any competitive field, is the unknown quantity. That's scarier than you being a woman or me being a black guy or somebody being 4 feet tall. So once you get past that, now I actually found that numerically I was doing better once I realized that nepotism was a really big part of the unions when I came out here. So I wasn't really competing against, say, all the white guys who wanted to be in sound, just the white guys who already had relatives in the sound world. Okay, so to shorten the list, you know, but you still had to prove, it still took, I said, 7 years. And the 7 years was very important because at that time, you really weren't going to get any work in big studio productions non-union. I don't know if that's still the case now, but the unions also essentially they didn't take the template that SAG had established, which if you do 2 lines in a movie, you either Taft-Hartley or you go home. Now, if the behind-the-camera unions had done that, they really wouldn't have created the non-union pool of labor that they ended up competing with. Because what are we going to do? We're going to work at the 7-Eleven until somebody finally calls us to get on the roster? No, we're going to work because we want to be in this business. It's passion.
Well, one of the things that I didn't announce, and I want people to know what you won the Oscars for. You won it for Glory and Dances with Wolves. And you and I are connected through Glory. You might have done all the work. I got all the glory because I did the school program for most of the high schools in this country who didn't teach the Civil War the way it really happened. It wasn't just the South, it was just all over. And I was so excited when I met you because I realized I finally had a bridge to something. And when I worked with Denzel, and which I have many times, he said something, and I want to add, and you kind of led me to it, is that when he decided to be an actor because he liked it, he didn't know people of color that were actors, and it kind of in a way held him back. But he got the chickens came home to roost, and his life changed. For what was it? I think he made $221, but everybody famous came to see him.
Sure.
Was it the same thing for you? I mean, you alluded that you saw Quincy Jones. No, but when you came out here, how many black people did you see working in this industry?
Well, not many, but I really am so thankful that my background in network television before I came here really prepared me for what I was going to see in L.A. because way back then, I didn't expect that all my breaks would come from somebody with a permanent tan. A guy named Paul Fine was the one that opened the door to let me get into the local documentary unit at ABC Channel 7 in D.C. A guy named Paul Kirkham, hired me at NBC when I came to the interview with a dashiki on. Now, that wasn't my intention, but it just so happened that my interview was scheduled the next day, and I was going to look like I kind of look now, except, of course, 50 years ago or so. But someone called me and said, if you wait till tomorrow, there will be no jobs. Can you come today? And I was like, I'm not properly dressed. But I got that job only because I knew what NBC's latest toy was. And I kind of said that as an aside as they were showing me the door. And he says, what, you know about this? Then he says, would you like to see it? And it was like 2 mothers looking through a window in the maternity ward of their new baby. And then he says, well, when can you start? I said, well, I'll be back at 5 o'clock. He says, no, we'll give you a couple weeks. So I realized that my career has really been the contribution of a lot of people. Again, taking a chance on an unknown quantity. And as soon as I did get that job, I came back properly dressed, and I told him, you'll never regret giving me that opportunity. And that's how I hopefully did the rest of my career. Anytime somebody took a chance on me, it's like, okay, make sure they don't regret giving me that chance.
Okay, where are the Oscars?
The Oscars are at the Smithsonian.
How come you decided to do that?
Well, I've been looking at them for a few years, and as an Academy member, we have a museum. And Cheryl asked, well, wouldn't you want to have your Oscars out here? Which was kind of like bringing more sand to a beach. And it's a very impressive beach. But in D.C. at the Smithsonian, which was one of the places I missed, living out here full time, I said, and I'm a D.C. kid. I'm from Southeast D.C. And even to this, well, I won't say even to this day, but these days, when you hear Southeast D.C. on TV, it's usually because there's a chalk outline on the street or the sidewalk. But the D.C. I grew up in, the Southeast I grew up in, was like really a community. So I hope that if those statuettes are there and a little bit of my history, maybe it'll inspire some other kids from the wrong side of the river to say, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to necessarily be Hollywood, but you can be at the top of the pyramid if you focus and understand what it's going to take to get there.
You also got 2 Primetime Emmy Awards here. You're just loaded with awards. Did those awards open more jobs for you, or was it that curse that they say you win and then you never work again?
Well,
he won twice, so obviously he worked a second time.
Yeah, right. And they were back to back, so maybe the news hadn't gotten around that I won the first year. But what it did give me was a kind of a glimpse at what the people on the other side of the camera usually experience when they win a big award, because all of a sudden different scripts were coming to me that would have never been offered to me had I not had those statuettes. I had to get representation all of a sudden. I didn't realize people behind the camera had agents. I love that whole process because, trust me, if I'm in a room negotiating for myself, it's going to be a disaster. I give you the deal points, let you go negotiate, and it says, okay, fine. Because then I can come to work Monday morning, hopefully smiling in a good mood. If I get bad news in the negotiation, that may sour the deal from that point on.
With your first Oscar, do you remember what you said at your acceptance speech?
I do, because our lead mixer, Donald O. Mitchell, he was up for 2 movies that same year. He was up for Black Rain and also for Glory. And as you know, the way they announce the winner, they don't give you the name of the movie first. They start reading the personnel. So they say Donald Mitchell, he takes off like a bat out of hell to the stage, but there's still 7 people sitting in the chairs not knowing for which movie. And there were 2 Gregs on, there was a Greg P. Russell on Black Rain's crew, and then there's a Greg Rudloff on our crew. So it was kind of like those seconds seemed like it was 3 lifetimes before we said, Greg C. Rudloff, okay, that's us. I wasn't supposed to say anything. But Donald looked over his shoulder, and he got his speech done in 15 seconds. He said, jump in there. And I was like, I just want to say thank you to all the home countries. I made something up. The second year, I was more prepared because there were no competing crews. And as it turned out, I actually got to the mic first, and then I did the same thing for our lead mixer that happened the year before, because that was his birthday that day. So I wanted to make sure he got a chance at the mic, because we're part of the team that we hear the 30-second play out. If I go up there for best actor, best director, I could still be giving my speech, but not if you do sound.
Well, one more question before we let you go.
You're letting me go?
Well, you and Ed will all party after this is over.
Oh, sounds good to me.
The truth of the matter is, this new crop of people that are in your classes at American University. Yes. Do we have hope for the future in the entertainment business?
Well, if I have anything to do with it, if they come into my film and video 1 class, I tell them first day, I said, I hope that my role is to show you how to get large format results with small format tools. And then I go in and give them a little bit of what I consider cinematic techniques that most anyone can achieve, even with out-of-the-box cameras. But the thing that makes the feature films and television shows look better than the average stuff that most of these kids are doing. Some of these kids come already with a look and a style, but some of them are playing with these tools for the first time. And I said, really, it's the time in preparation that makes a difference. It's not necessarily that George Clooney's in front of the camera, but it's all the little minutia that they thought about before they put George Clooney in front of the camera that makes their projects look a little bit different than yours. It took a little bit more time to consider the lighting. They're listening to the sound. They want to make sure the fabric is the right for this character. A lot of those type of details.
Well, and I was taught on the first film I made that people will forgive poor picture. They will not forgive poor sound.
I'm glad you said that, Ben, because if I say that, say I'm being prejudicial. But I think few directors really understand the power of sound the way that, say, the Hitchcocks did. So one of my goals as a professor is to try to get the students to listen very carefully, because why did War of the Worlds as a radio show scare more people than either War of the Worlds as a movie? Because when you create your monster from your imagination, it's definitely going to work. The monster I create as a filmmaker might work, but the one that you create inside your head is definitely going to work. And I think we need to really start looking at how these ears really are the eyes behind in the back of your head.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Loved it.
My pleasure.
Okay,
and love the wine, too.
Well, good. Thank you for Conundrum Red and Conundrum White, which you can find just about anywhere, including this show.
All right. Another toast? Or
another toast.
Thank you.
Right.
This was our best show yet. Yeah.
Yes, we're all drinking.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll be right back.
All right.
Conundrum has been turning winemaking on its head for 25 years. Conundrum White is the original white wine blend from California. Pair this exotic, versatile wine with everything from Asian cuisine to tacos. Conundrum Red is rich, full-flavored, and balanced, the perfect complement to dishes like pasta pomodoro, fajitas, and barbecue.
Drink it slightly chilled, perfect for summer. You'll find Conundrum red and white wines at your favorite restaurants, wine shops, or supermarket. Go to WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Again, that's WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Find your wine, find your adventure.
Nearly famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches is Reba Merrill's intriguing look at hidden Hollywood. Find out what movie stars are really like in this behind-the-scenes Hollywood tell-all. The story of Reba's extraordinary life interwoven with an insider's look at achieving fame and success in the entertainment industry. A must-read. Buy Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches at RebaMerrill.com, Amazon.com, or ask for it at fine bookstores. Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches. You'll love it.
Barkeeper in Silver Lake has the finest cocktail shakers and vintage glassware and barware from the mid-century to new. And let's not forget about Barkeeper's unique spirits, 150 different kinds of bitters, and their unique gifts. In fact, Barkeeper provided a lot of the vintage barware for Mad Men. BarkeeperSilverLake.com. Don't wait to visit their store or their website at BarkeeperSilverLake.com. It's your very own Barkeeper catalog for unique gifts.
Behind the scenes with Hollywood's power players. Real Hollywood Live with Ben and Reba. Starts now.
I've done a lot of, appearances in my life, but it's the first time. Why would you have Russell Williams on this show?
I asked that same question.
I didn't ask you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm asking these two.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is Reba's fantasy.
Oh, I see. You didn't tell me that.
We shared a movie.
It's a threesome.
Well, no.
It's a threesome.
Reba and her men.
How do you think Caitlin Asner sounds as a name?
Well, it's almost as good as Caitlyn Jenner. I'm kind of envisioning it.
Well, it may happen any time now.
It could. Yeah. It could. Do you feel
I'll
a
make
little
my
bit?
play for Russell and see if he goes for older people.
Well, let's try the first date. If I like, if you don't wear a cologne that's too strong.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't wear any.
Russell is a sound guy, and you do have the voice, so it could work.
That's the first thing that made him really attractive to me. He's got.
Yeah.
But as Caitlyn, it's kind of questionable. Who knew that you were a bass?
That I was a bass?
Yeah. As a
there's an operation for that. There's an operation for that too.
I mean, will that change too?
Yeah, we can.
That I haven't
But
researched.
we have to chop something off first, and then you go from baritone to alto
It automatically
to mezzo.
happens. It's
to
a
mezzo.
It's a repeat bris.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be damned. That's interesting. The whole hog bris.
The whole hog.
If you'll forgive the.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what else?
Both of you have been in the industry for a long time. And I'm wondering if we could have final thoughts, what you think about the advantages of having a career in show business.
You're pushing your luck. Okay, Ed, go for it.
Well, I'm glad I was there when I was, because I find great chaos in our industry, great chaos. Most people these days can't find their ass with either hand. And I think if they keep looking, they'll be disappointed. But I pity people getting into the business because of the chaos that exists. It was wonderful when the studios were under one leadership, and they had good people working under them, so that I could get a break, and I didn't expect it. I don't know how people And I think that's why so much product is not worthwhile. And sound is terrible. Sound is terrible, babe.
Well, I can only take credit for trying to get one of the reasons, and this is really quick, one of the reasons that it doesn't really get as good as it should be is because they never bring a sound person to the locations when they're trying to decide whether we're going to use this place or the place across the street. And then a lot of directors, even coming from film school, they can see, but they don't necessarily listen, even to the performance. For me, it has to work as radio on the set.
Yeah.
Not only is your face acting, but I'm also listening to what you're saying and how you're phrasing.
Well, I would just jump in with this, and a lot of it is due to, first of all, I'm hard of hearing, so naturally I'm going to bitch, but it has a great deal to do with the actors who don't believe in enunciation anymore, with the mixers who, because they're hearing it on their mic and getting a very clear shot of it, still don't transfer that out to the audience, and the director.
Well, there's so much more. We're going to have you both back.
Please.
Sequel.
Yep, sequel. In the meantime, again, a shout out to our sponsors, Conundrum Red and White.
You're getting back to those
Silverlip.
guys again?
We are, and you can see the replay of today on youtube.com/Reba Merrill, at filmfestivalflix.com/real-hollywood-live, on iTunes, as well as here on ubnradio.com. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
It's a wrap, and I had a really good time.
I did too, honey.
Real Hollywood Live with Ben and Reba.